Hey everyone, Callum from Cagefront here. Welcome back to another video, and if you are new here, welcome to the channel. Now, before we get into the video, sorry if I sound like absolute death. It's because I actually have the flu at the moment, so it's pretty reluctant to even record this video, so hopefully we get through it okay. But with this card, UFC 309, we're going to be recapping every single fight on the card, and we had Charles and Chandler put on absolute fireworks as we expected, and we also had Jon Jones making things not so clear as to what he wants next, and Stipe Miocic, the GOAT of the heavyweights, finally retiring. So let's get into the first fight of Veronica versus Eduarda Moura. Now, unfortunately, I did want Veronica Hardy to win, but as I said in the predictions, Eduarda Moura was going to get this done. I did think it would be by a submission, but Veronica Hardy on the ground, she did show very good defensive awareness when it was there. Obviously, Eduarda Moura did have over 4 minutes of control time, but Veronica Hardy, she just was not able to really threat on the feet. I mean, Moura was just a bigger fighter, looked massive, really the right weight division for her. I mean, she had much heavier hands in the exchange, and she just secured most of the rounds when it came to just that physical stature and the strength, whether it came to the ground or on the feet. Veronica Hardy just isn't one of the biggest flyweights there is. So Eduarda Moura, honestly, she just did a very good job in this fight. I mean, she did a very good job of checking with the right hand when Hardy was coming in. She had very nice counter right hook. And ultimately, Veronica Hardy just did not have a physical presence, a real physical threat in there. And Eduarda Moura was just able to outmuscle her through pretty much every exchange. And that's where I think it's fair enough that she got this one done pretty decisively by that unanimous decision. And I think she needs to be staying at flyweight now. She looks way better in this division. Now, moving up to Bassil Hafez versus Oban Elliott. Oban Elliott, this guy is a beast. He's just improving and improving and improving every single time. I had him getting a decision in this one. That third round finish that he got, my God, Hafez was destroyed. Elliott was doing such a good job of opening with the body kicks, utilizing the jabs, cutting down Hafez's gas tank, which was exactly what he needed to do. Hafez did not play into his game that he needed to at all, did not try and get this to the ground. And even with his shots going from the second onwards, like shooting in for a takedown, he wouldn't have got it anyway, to be honest. Let's be real here, because Elliott's takedown defense has looked fantastic, especially against Preston Parsons in his last fight, and Hafez's gas tank just dropping and dropping and dropping. The likelihood of him securing it was just not there, and he was just outmatched on the feet. I mean, Elliott's check hooks when Hafez was coming in he's catching him pretty much every time, and then Hafez was literally just hunting the head kick. That's realistically all he was doing on the feet, so there wasn't a huge threat against Oban there. Oban tripled his output, and then in that third round, straight out the gates, right hook, floored Hafez down, just dead. I mean, he is just improved incredibly. An amazing spearhead for Wales as well. Honestly, if he keeps improving like this, he will shoot up the welterweight rankings, because he is just seriously improving every single time he fights. First, it was the takedown department and takedown defense department against Preston Parsons, and now it's his striking. He's just putting on a clinic. So he is looking great. Moving up to my first loss of the predictions, we went 8 out of 12 on this card, so not too bad overall. Now, Gall, I did have him taking a decision here, but Brahimaj, he just looked great. I mean, the striking threat that he had, he's never shown that before, and it's just great for him with his confidence coming back from the layoff, the injuries that he's had. Cannot blame at all. I mean, he just looked great. The clinch striking especially, Gall was just getting done out. I mean, Brahimaj just had much more power in his hands, and ultimately coming back into it now, that's just going to give him so much confidence. And Gall, sadly for him, I think it's time for him to get cut. Moving on the card to Marcin Tybura versus Jhonata Diniz. Now, I had Marcin Tybura by a submission in this one, but obviously getting the KO TKO finish, I did think that he would be able to get it done. Did get scared at the start because he got stunned by that short elbow when he was coming in. But Tybura, being the veteran he is, and Diniz not having a ground game pretty much at all, the moment Tybura was able to get it to the ground, I was confident. And he was able to scoot out, get on top of Diniz, and especially obviously through that second round, just the ground and pound, the elbows absolutely pieced Diniz apart. I mean, when it comes to the call, I think it was completely fair. I honestly think Herb Dean probably could have called it a little bit earlier, but going into that doctor's stoppage, when it came to the end of the second round, that split across his eyelid that was literally on his eyelid, you have to call it from that, because if that gets any bigger, it could literally just tear his eyelid off. So completely fair. Tybura cuts down the hype train, and ultimately it's kind of bad for the heavyweight division. Diniz is someone that they need really up there for that KO threat, but Tybura, ultimately, just the veteran he is, he has way too much experience, and I was confident picking him in the predictions for this one. And I think we need to see him versus Curtis Blaydes next. That would be a great fight, especially when it comes to the ground game. Moving up to the short notice fight of David Onama versus Roberto Romero. This was, thank God this was on the card. This was an insane fight, an insane first round as well. I mean, Romero coming out very strong, made a statement. I mean, he dropped Onama pretty hard first, and he was just pressuring all over the shop. Leg kicks, heavy pressure with the boxing, and he just landed so clean over the top and dropped Onama. Doing that straight out the gates, that's just going to secure him for more fights in the UFC. I mean, without a doubt. And he also had very nice head movement. Was very surprised by that, because on the regional scene, he didn't really showcase that much, but I think he just really respected Onama's power, and he had a very tight guard as well, and he just did a very good job throughout that first round. But obviously, Onama, with that experience, coming through the second and third round, I did think Onama would KO him. My mistake, because obviously he's Mexican. It's very hard to take out one of those chins, and we know Romero has got a Mexican chin now. He took some crazy shots for Onama in the second and third round. They were so loud. I mean, Onama's hooks, especially his straight shots as well, with that 3-inch reach advantage he has over Romero, my God. I mean, the fact that Romero didn't get taken out, he got dropped, obviously, by Onama, but the heart that this kid has is crazy. Respect him completely. I want to see him more in the UFC without a doubt. After that kind of short notice performance, imagine the guy on a full camp. I mean, seriously, he is a fighter to watch without a doubt. Now, David Onama obviously coming through, getting the win, having this short notice kind of fight. I think it's probably best that he does probably go for a ranking eliminator fight next. Moving up the card to Jim Miller versus Damon Jackson. Now, I did say in the predictions, either Jim Miller was going to get this done very early, or Damon Jackson was going to ride out for the decision using his movement and obviously just that gas tank, that rejuvenated gas tank he has coming up from featherweight. Because in the past, in the LFA, he does have a good record at lightweight. But Jim Miller, the guy is just a savage. I mean, he looked great. He was pressuring the whole entire time. And the thing that I really found strange on Damon Jackson's side, I'm not sure if he had something wrong with his leg or something like that, or he just never really got into the fight, but he was moving very, very strangely. He was not moving well on the outside, and Jim Miller just took complete advantage. Obviously, Damon Jackson came in. Jim Miller capitalized, jump for that gilly that Dustin Poirier would definitely be proud of. So huge respect for Jim Miller, and I can't wait to see him reach that 50. And obviously for Damon Jackson, he fought some amazing fighters in his career. I mean, Elliott to Poirier, Dan Ige, I mean, the list goes on. And obviously he's retired now, and he was a pretty entertaining fighter to see. But obviously Jim Miller's night, and can't wait to see him obviously hit that 50. Now, moving on to the feature prelim, Jonathan Martinez versus Marcus McGee, which is definitely a frustrating one. And I think a lot of people could agree with me here, because I did have Jonathan Martinez by the decision in my predictions, and he could have got it done. I mean, he seriously could have. I mean, he destroyed McGee's leg through the second and third round. Jonathan Martinez, obviously his infamous leg kicks, he just destroys people with them. Like Adrian Yanez literally got him out of there with a leg kick TKO, and getting McGee out of there, he was bloody close. But there's no argument for me here against Jonathan Martinez, even though he was my pick, because McGee just had more output. I mean, the first round was definitely his. He throws like everything into his shots. I mean, he's a muscle nugget. The size of this guy's fucking lats are crazy, and he just throws everything to his shots. And Jonathan Martinez, obviously, strike defense, very, very good, luckily for him. but he could have capitalized, and he really will be kicking himself now. He missed the opportunity. But Marcus McGee being the winner, I mean, the leg kicks that he had to start off with, I mean, he landed more, his boxing was better, he was very fast, and he actually looked decent going into the third round in terms of his pacing. Obviously his legs were chewed to bits, but Marcus McGee can show that he can fight 3 rounds, so he's just getting even more dangerous. And now I want to see him fight like a Montel Jackson or a Song Yadong to really compare their power. Now moving on to the main card, Mauricio Ruffy versus James Llontop. I mean, Mauricio Ruffy, I got this perfect prediction, thankfully. I didn't think it would be a 29-28. I thought it'd be a 30-26. But Llontop, man, this guy has to stay in the UFC after that performance. Yes, he missed weight for the catch weight even, but putting in that kind of heart, I mean, he got pieced apart in the first and second round and came back and won the third. He has that South American dog in him, and I'm really hoping the UFC can keep him in there, to be honest, just renew his contract, because going in there on short notice in general is dangerous, but going against a guy like Mauricio Ruffy, who just his footwork, his striking, I mean, he is just mesmerizing. I mean, he's got some world-class striking, his movement as well, world-class. I mean, he honestly was just catching him with the craziest stuff. I mean, the untelegraphed strikes that he had, I mean, he had his hands low the whole time, that's his style, but his 1-2s that weren't telegraphed, I mean, vertical elbows, tornado kicks, spinning heel kicks, I mean, what the hell does this guy not have? And along with that, the speed difference there against Llontop was insane. And most of all, that fadeaway no-look shovel hook was ridiculous. The fact that he caught Llontop clean on the chin and dropped him with that, I'm just credit to Llontop for surviving, seriously. But it does also show that Ruffy does start to drag out when it comes to that third round, but it's also it's kind of hard to tell as well, because they're both not at 155. So James Llontop, honestly, if he fought in this fight and he cut down to 155, I think Ruffy would have chinned him, to be honest. Just having that extra weight, just having less of a strain from the weight cut on your chin, I think that's what allowed Llontop to survive. Now, Mauricio Ruffy going up the rankings, I mean, the call out for Benoit Saint Denis, I think, is fantastic. I think fighting him, possibly even Bobby Green, just someone where you can really have a striking showcase, as well as having a bit of a grappling threat in there as well to just test him there, because that's where it's a bit of an unknown. I think that is what we really need to see from Ruffy, because if he can keep this up against top flight competition, he is going to be a fan favorite without a doubt. Just absolutely incredible performance. Moving up the card to my one loss in the predictions on the main card, Viviane Araújo versus Karine Silva. I mean, Araújo just showed some amazing heart, and she's derailed Karine's hype now, which is not good for the division, which I've spoken about in previous videos. That's not good for the division, because we really need those versatile just finishes in that division as best we can. I mean, the women's MMA in general, we need finishes, and Araújo, as we know, her last 10 fights, win or lose, have gone to decision, and that's what the flyweight division just does not need, because it has that stigma around it. Now, her in this fight though, it was a very entertaining fight. I mean, she's got the power, she used very good boxing in there, she was just very gritty. Transitional awareness on the ground as well from Araújo was probably the highlight for her, just keeping safe, because Karine Silva, man, on the ground, she is deadly, as we know. She has like almost 10 submissions to her name. And also on the feet, Araújo surviving through that second round, Karine Silva popping off against the cage. I mean, hit 3 clean shots and Araújo didn't get dropped. So very, very impressive from Araújo to not only come back from that, but to actually get the win, which I think 29-28 is without a doubt a fair call on this one. Karine Silva, if she can just work on her speed and her technical ability with her hands, then I think she's pretty airtight there. But I think that she just does have a lot of work on the feet in terms of, like, she's got the power obviously, but just that technical capability and the speed there, I think if she can tighten that up, then she's going to be severely dangerous. But at this point, we now know from Araújo, who is a veteran, they can expose those holes there. Moving up to Paul Craig versus Bo Nickal. Now, this was not a very entertaining fight. Obviously, this is doing nothing but cutting down Bo Nickal's stock. Arguably, this could have been a 29-28 to Bo Nickal, just depending if you give the first round to Paul Craig. Craig, just that physical presence that he has, as well as the matchup that it was, very, very tricky stylistically for both guys, because the ground game, obviously Paul Craig submission freak off his back, but then Bo Nickal, obviously world-class wrestler, so who wins there? And as I said, Bo Nickal would have been an idiot to go down to the ground just to risk that, because he is technically the better striker. He's got a bit better power, which he did showcase in this fight, but ultimately it just does not win him any more fans by any means. Like, there's just no chance. I mean, being the 8-1 favorite or whatever it was, it's just not playing. It's not playing for him. I mean, it doesn't play for anyone really, unless you can consistently get first round finishes. It's not great for your name, and it never should have been so, because Paul Craig is such a veteran. I did think Bo Nickal would win without a doubt, but it has nothing to do with Paul Craig's technical ability or anything like that. That's where I think the odds should have been a lot closer. The only reason why I think the odds could have been exacerbated for Bo Nickal over Paul Craig is literally just because of Paul Craig's chin. His chin is pretty much gone. But in this fight, man, he took some good shots. He took some very good shots from Bo Nickal. He ate them. Obviously, moving into the third round, he got clipped pretty badly twice, I believe. But Bo Nickal didn't capitalize. He was way too patient. He should have capitalized. He could have finished Paul Craig there, and he didn't. And ultimately, I think that does lose him fans. But he is moving up. He will move up through the division, but I think that he will lose his O within the next 2 to 3 fights, realistically. The way he's been performing at this point, there's just not a lot of answers that he has for a lot of the guys up at the top of that division in middleweight. Moving up to our certified fan favorite banger, Charles Oliveira versus Michael Chandler 2. I mean, this was it's just so much fun. I mean, like, what we don't even really need to statistically and analytically get into it, because just, you know that Charles Oliveira is ultimately the better fighter. I mean, I was happy to go with him, but the fact that this went to a decision, I believe Charles being the favorite and going to a decision was like 9-1 in terms of odds. So anyone cashing out on that decision win, just in general, fair play, you got good money, because I was not expecting this to go to a decision, and that is credit to Michael Chandler's bloody submission defense, and even obviously his strike defense, and also sprinting around the cage as fast as possible. Obviously not wanting to get in the same situation that he did in their first fight, where Charles clipped his chin and then took him out against the cage, which is completely fair. But there is something that we do need to talk about with this fight, and that is Michael Chandler and his cheating. Michael Chandler and cheating. It is becoming infamous. The guy is just eye-poking, he's fence-grabbing, he's glove-grabbing. I mean, it's a really big issue. Yes, he's entertaining as hell, but in that 5th round, my God, I don't know what the hell Keith Peterson was doing. No nonsense, clearly. He let like 20 unanswered shots go to the back of Charles Oliveira's head. I don't know what he was thinking. He should have called it, repositioned them, stood them up, something, because that was insane. Or just allow Charles to have just a neutral position, you know, when it came to the ground. Obviously, Michael Chandler was on top at that point, but yeah, just completely unanswered. And Charles was getting into some decent scenarios where he could have found a rear naked choke, which is how I think he was going to finish this fight. But the gloves, grabbing the gloves, was really hindering that. And Charles obviously called out. Not speaking English probably doesn't help, but yeah, ultimately Charles getting this fight done pretty simply. I mean, 15 minutes of control time. His striking was just a lot better. I mean, he's just a lot bigger presence in the octagon. I mean, his Muay Thai is just amazing, in combination with Michael Chandler not being in the cage for so long. I think it was just a recipe. Well, it was a recipe for a finish, but obviously we clearly didn't get that. But yeah, look, it was entertaining regardless, because Michael Chandler just makes every fight entertaining. He's allergic to making that not happen. But ultimately, Charles I'm keen to see him have another title shot because he bloody as well deserves it. It's going to be against Arman or Islam, so I think it's going to be Islam, and we really need to see that fight again, because if Charles can get it done over Islam, that would be incredible. And look, it's not impossible. And moving on to the main event, we had Jon Jones and Stipe Miocic. Now, Stipe Miocic, he wasn't really a heavyweight in this fight. He was a heavy bag. I mean, he was just getting picked apart. I did think Jon Jones would be able to take him down, like just get him to the ground and fight and link up a submission, hook in a submission, and be the first to finish Stipe Miocic by that. But Jon Jones, with his speed, when it came to his strike speed, really impressed me, especially with his jab. He was picking him apart with the jab, like lightning fast jab. I think it was fantastic. Probably the best thing he actually showcased. Even compared to the spinning kick that he actually finished him with, I think that was actually the best part. And obviously the elbows on the ground, you know, classic Jon Jones style. Didn't get to see any 12-6 elbows from him, which was surprising, but man, Stipe, the fact that he didn't get taken out in that first round, obviously clear 10-8 round, but the fact that he didn't get finished, let alone didn't get cut, didn't get a single cut, and Jon Jones probably hit him with, honestly, 30 bloody strikes just on the ground there. And yeah, he was dazed for sure. If that went any longer, I think Jones could have got it done, but yeah, he did a very good job, obviously holding in there, and especially being out for so long. Well, borderline, I think 1,000 days he's been out, and coming off the Francis Ngannou loss. I mean, credit to Stipe, but Jon Jones just clearly the better fighter, absolutely everywhere. I mean, his timing. I mean, we just know this about Jon Jones. You know, like it was a question coming up to heavyweight, but yeah, he just did look incredible when it came to the wrestling, when it came to the striking, just his distance management, his timing of his strikes, and his versatility. He definitely, honestly, must have broken Stipe's ribs when it came to that spinning back kick, without a doubt. Just the sound, the way it landed, and the way he crumpled. I mean, that was it. That was completely fair. Jon Jones is looking great. Now, the big question, the elephant in the bloody room, is obviously his call out, and we just don't know exactly what he is aiming for. Obviously, he didn't say Tom Aspinall's name, and he wants Alex Pereira. He is ducking Aspinall at all costs, so it's going to be very interesting to see whether we're going to get the Alex Pereira fight, which Dana doesn't want, the Tom Aspinall fight, which Dana wants, but Jon Jones wants a shitload of money, or fuck you money, as he says, or is he going to retire? It's going to be interesting to see. And moving on to the Fight Card Awards, we have the fighter to watch, which I am giving it to Oban Elliott. Just honestly, the way this guy is improving, being like the singular Welsh fighter there as well. Obviously, we have Jack Shaw, but Oban Elliott is seriously performing at the moment. He is the spearhead, and he is just looking great. The confidence that he brings, I mean, just the things that he's tightening up after every single performance. Going from the takedown defense, looking flawless against Preston Parsons, now against Bassil Hafez, who isn't known for his KO power, but is just a very big physical presence in the octagon. Absolutely fucking chins him. He just looks great. I mean, he honestly arguably could have got the best finish of the night, but the best finish of the night, I'm giving it to Jon Jones, not only because of the finish itself, but obviously the occasion. You know, him solidifying himself in heavyweight, going through 15 minutes as well, so we get to see more of him instead of just finishing Cyril Gane straight away. Jones just looked incredible. I mean, he looked great. Just showing that versatility in his striking is what has got him so far, along with obviously his wrestling and the trips. I mean, the trip that he got on Stipe at the start was just brilliant, honestly, and it was just straight, just randomly just happened. He said that he didn't even time it, didn't even plan it. It was just kind of a memory. He just did it, which is credit to him. Honestly, he looked fantastic in this fight. Finish of the night, without a doubt. I mean, I can't really see why it shouldn't be, because just the occasion, obviously being an MSG, possibly being his retirement fight, it was his night. Now, moving on to the top 3 moments of the card. In third place, I'm giving it to Jim Miller
and just the age that is not phasing him. I mean, being what, 41 to 42 years old, he's aiming for 50 fights, he's finishing people in the first round. The dude looks incredible. I mean, even going against Bobby Green, who was top 15 at the time that he was fighting him, basically at top 15, didn't get finished by him, and he just has so much heart, so much finishing potential, and obviously success. Jim Miller is just a GOAT. He is a legend. Absolutely love him, and it's great that he got to do it in New York as well. I mean, yeah, he's just having fun in the UFC, and it's always just fun to see him actually win. Now, moving on to second place, I gotta give it specifically to Michael Chandler, dropping the fuck it line and then dropping on his back, dropping Charles straight on his back like last time. Not once, but twice. I mean, Chandler, obviously, yes, he cheated in the fight, but man, he just makes fights so entertaining. Would be an issue if he won the fight, but 49-46, I mean, the guy is just a class entertainer. At the end of the day, like, seeing him possibly fight Max Holloway for the BMF, I think that is completely valid, because this guy is a BMF. You're an idiot if you don't think so. Come on. I mean, he is just so entertaining. Be a good matchup there. I honestly do think so. He's 38 years old now. I would like to see him against Conor McGregor and chin Conor McGregor, but the fight's just not happening, and he doesn't have the time to lose anymore. So please just make that Max Holloway fight. It makes perfect sense. And moving on to number one, gotta emphasize Jon Jones and his call out. So obviously his call out wasn't super clear. And a side note, credit to Stipe Miocic. I mean, the guy, just heavyweight GOAT. I mean, you know, him retiring finally now after an amazing career, beating Francis Ngannou when in their first fight, just literally made him change up his game, just being like, you are not it at the moment. Like, he ran circles around Francis, ragdolled him, and is like 20 or 30 pounds lighter than him. Stipe is just a dog. I mean, like, just an incredible human being, obviously firefighter as well. You know, it was amazing getting to see him in the octagon, but it was the right time to hang it up. But I'm happy that he did get to have his last show, obviously in MSG as the main event against Jon Jones as well. I think he completely deserved that. Now, looking back at the call out for Jon Jones, I mean, is he going to retire? If the Tom Aspinall fight is not a heap of money, and then it just takes too long to make the Alex Pereira fight, he will probably just leave. I mean, the Alex Pereira fight, I can understand why he wants it. Jon Jones is playing the game. He wants to obviously pick apart Alex Pereira's ground game. He is not going to stand with him for 5 seconds. He will try and take him down, and he's got the fight IQ to take Alex Pereira down. Let's be honest here. And he's got the ability to submit him as well. And that's just where, honestly, I think that is probably the more feasible fight, because there's no way in hell, honestly, I just don't see him and Tom Aspinall actually fighting. Like, that's a fight like Conor McGregor and Michael Chandler. I'll believe it when they're both in the cage. I just don't see that happening. And ultimately, obviously the odds came out. It's close to a pick'em. Tom Aspinall's the favorite, and I think that is literally the fair way to go, because ultimately I think the only person that is beating Jon Jones is Tom Aspinall, and I think he knows that as well. So that's where this fight will not happen. Hope you enjoyed today's recap video, and if you want to see more MMA based content, definitely just check out the video on the screen, and please like, comment, subscribe. It really goes a long way for the channel, and I love making these videos, and I will catch you in the next one.